This is VK6ARN, Newswest. We are a community organisation and we've been serving up the best amateur radio news in Australia since 1931. Hi there, I'm Clinton, VK6FCRC, and welcome to Newswest for the 18th of May 2025. Now on with the news.
Foundations of Amateur Radio. Since becoming a licensed amateur in 2010, I have spent a good amount of time putting together my thoughts on a weekly basis about the hobby and the community surrounding amateur radio. As you might know, my interest is eclectic, some might say random, but by and large I go where the unicorns appear. Over a year ago I mentioned in passing a community called Ham Sci. The label on the box is Ham Radio Science Citizen Investigation, which gives you a sense of what this is all about. It was started by amateur radio scientists who study upper atmospheric and space physics. More formally, the Ham Sci mission is the, quote, continuation and extension of the amateur's proven ability to contribute to the advancement of the radio art, end quote. If you visit the hamsci.org website, and you should, you'll discover dozens of universities and around 1,300 people, many of whom are licensed radio amateurs, who are asking questions and discovering answers that matter to more than just our amateur community. For the 8th time, the Ham Sci community held an annual workshop, really an opportunity to get together and share ideas, in person and across the internet, a conference by any other name. Under the banner of Ham Sci's Big Year, over 2 days, 56 people representing 27 different organisations across 61 sessions, tutorials, discussions, tours, posters and demonstrations explored topics all over our hobby, from the Personal Space Weather Network, capable of making ground-based measurements of the space environment, to the Whistler Catcher Pi, a project to record the VLF spectrum to 48 kHz using a Raspberry Pi. You'll find research into HF antennas for the DARSI, or Distributed Array of Small Instruments project, and associated NSF grants, exploring measurements of HF and VLF combined with GPS and magnetometer across 20 to 30 stations. There's discussions on how to explore geospace data, such as information coming from the Personal Space Weather Station Network, or PSWS, using the Open Space Project, and dealing with the challenges of visualizing across a wide scale all the way up to the entire known universe. Did I mention that there's work underway to add PSWS-compatible receivers to Antarctica? There's reports on observations and modelling of the ionospheric effects of the April 2024 solar eclipse QSO party, including Doppler radio, HF time differences and medium-wave signal enhancements, not to mention planning and promoting future meteor scatter QSO parties. There's post-sunset sporadic F-propagation, large-scale travelling ionospheric disturbances, GPS-disciplined beacons, the physical nature of sporadic E-propagation and plenty more. As you might have heard me say at one time or another, the difference between fiddling and science is writing it down. It means that you'll find every session has accompanying documentation, charts, graphics and scientific papers. Remember, there's 8 years of reading to catch up with, or learn from, or play with. The Publications and Presentations section on the hamsci.org website currently has 526 different entries. You might not be interested in the impact of radio wave and GPS scintillation or rapid fluctuation in strength caused during the G5 geomagnetic storm that occurred on the 10th of May 2024, or a statistical study of ion temperature anisotropy using AMISR, or Advanced Modular Incoherent Scatter Radar data, or you might. In case you're curious, anisotropy is the property of being directionally dependent. In other words, it matters in which direction you measure. which might have some relevance to you if you consider that we think of the ionosphere and radio paths as being reciprocal. If it reminds you of isotropy, that's because they're opposites. The point being that amateur radio is a great many things to different people. If you're a scientist, budding, graduate or tenured, there's a home for you within this amazing hobby. I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Foxtrot Lima Alpha Bravo.
Hi, I'm Bob VK6POP with my ramblings for this week. Firstly, unless you're listening in the evening or not on Sunday at all, there's a bunch of people at Ham Camption playing with their radio toys and getting on with each other. Ham Camption is an annual event held at Mayanup near Boyup Brook. Did you miss out this year? One person gave an excuse that he was getting married this weekend. Pathetic. But happy wedding, Miles. Wishing you all the best for your nuptials. You have about a year to make plans to attend the next one. Either things have been a bit quiet in the week just gone by, or I've been rushing around too much to take notice. I'll be rushing around again next week attending a RASA board meeting. At this meeting we'll review what we've been up to for the year just gone by and define our direction into the future. These meetings are conducted at a minimal cost to the membership. Almost all of the cost is borne by those attending. I'm looking forward to being able to report on the outcomes. These will be reported in the June edition of RASA's QTC magazine. QTC contains news of the amateur radio world and items about useful, practical subjects that will interest most amateurs. The June edition of QTC is expected to be published on June the 7th. QTC is published online and can be found at RASA's website vkradioamateurs.org. QTC and all of the other resources from RASA are free, no membership required. You are, of course, welcome to sign up as a member of RASA. There's a spot on the website where you can do that. We ask for $10 as an annual membership fee, although you're free to offer more as a donation. Some people donate $95 for membership of RASA. That's an odd number to pluck out of the air. I wonder how they arrived at that. Anyway, I'm Bob VK6POP, and bye for now.
Hello, this is Dennis, VK6AKR for the WAVHF group. Last week I introduced the Lancaster birthday topic, so an update will be in order. We are working with our friends in the UK on getting East Kirkby on board, as well as Musée de l'Air et de l'Espace, Paris-Les Bourget, where serial number NX644 resides. Hands up those of you who thought I couldn't speak French, hi. Our New Zealand counterparts have shown interest too, so this is shaping up to be much more balanced between the hemispheres. Regardless of that, get ready to make contact with VK80JOD, Victor Kilo 80 Juliet Oscar Delta, and the other stations involved. Time is running short, deadline of May the 25th is approaching fast, so updates between now and then will be notified to WA Hams. We have a QRZ.com page for VK80JOD, once again showing what is possible when we amateurs set our minds to collaborate and commemorate. That QRZ page has had more than 100 lookups so far. Let's bump that up a bit, eh? The French Aviation Museum has their Lancaster in the main exhibition hall, and we're working across language boundaries to locate willing French amateurs and museum permission to make that station possible. Regardless, we're anticipating a successful birthday party. Main contact will be on DMR Brandmeister Talk Groups 98080 and 5056. That's 98080 and 5056. 98080 should remain available for this event, but if not, we'll fall back to 5056. Many thanks again to WAG and especially Adam, VK6XR, for ensuring the success of our DMR operations. Listen out for updates through the week on WA Hams. Until next time, enjoy your week in amateur radio. 73 from Dennis, VK6AKR.
This is Newswest, your amateur radio news on VK6ARN, originating on the Newswest linked repeater network and HF relays.
If you're new to amateur radio, you may not yet have heard about de-expeditions, so what is one of those? It's sort of self-explanatory if you see the word in writing. However, you can't see my script, so I'd better explain it. To begin with, DX is an abbreviation or shorthand for distance. In amateur radio terms, to work DX means working long distance. The concept of long distance is relative. A de-expedition is an expedition, usually to a remote location, such as an island, for the purpose of running an amateur radio station for a limited time, often with a call sign relative to that location. These locations are usually in countries or call sign areas that are rarely or never heard on air unless one of these expeditions takes place. As you can imagine, a de-expedition can be a very expensive operation, and the organiser seeks sponsorship to help with costs. Needless to say, the participants are likely to be paying a hefty contribution as well. The logistics of some of these expeditions is amazing. They often charter vessels to carry the gear, from generators to fuel, radio equipment, masts, antennas, feed lines, shelter, food and whatever else they need. De-expeditions are advertised through the DX community in order to make sure that they get loads of contacts. Although this isn't usually a problem, they mostly get as many contacts as they can handle. Don't be surprised, however, if it's difficult to make a contact with a de-expedition. Apart from propagation issues, there are two main reasons why it's a bit hard to be heard. The number one reason is that these expeditions are hell-bent on making the maximum possible number of contacts, so they aim their signals at the USA or Europe. It's simple, really. That's where the numbers lie. And remember that there are sponsors to keep happy. Secondly, and this one's very important, they almost always use split mode. So what is split mode, I hear you think? Split mode is where you listen on one frequency and transmit on another. Most HF rigs have this facility. Split mode separates the pile-up of stations calling in from the de-expedition's transmissions. But let's go back a step. How do you find these stations on air? A first step clearly would be to find out when a de-expedition is operating. You could do internet searches to find DX websites. Some DX cluster software has information available, or you could use a DX cluster to see what's happening. So now you have a fair idea of where to listen. Next, by listening to the station's CQ call, they give a clue as to what the split is. They will say something like, CQ, this is XY1 ABC listening 10 up. Your clue is 10 up. You need to set your radio to listen on their transmitting frequency and then transmit 10 kHz higher. You will need to consult your radio's manual to determine how to make these settings. Reports on the DX cluster often give you the offset of the split. Often you'll hear the pile-up getting bigger and bigger until nobody can be heard. There's a couple of main reasons this happens. Number one would be impatient or frustrated callers, and second is that most of the callers can't hear the rest of them, so the expedition station has to pick them out of the pile-up. The expedition operators sometimes manage the pile-up by filtering, calling only particular call areas, for example, JA1 only. Another effective, but it's a little ruthless, way is to change the split up or down suddenly. De-expeditions are sometimes a challenge to contact, however, it's fun trying and rewarding to make the contact. I'm Bob VK6POP.
Good morning, listeners. Roy VK6X Ray Victor with this week's helpline for the 18th of May 2025. Today I'm trying to assist or help an American amateur, Kilo 8 Oscar Kilo, named Mike. He's trying to locate John, who used to have VK6 Alpha Uniform as his license call sign, but that now is owned by Anthony Benbow, I believe. So if anyone knows if John, the previous owner of Victor Kilo 6 Alpha Uniform, is still around or contactable, or just could get in contact with me so I can pass that on to the recipient who's looking for him, that would be great. That's about all I have for this week, but if you can help me with that VK6 Alpha Uniform previous owner, John, let me know. My email address, Victor Kilo 6 X-Ray Victor at bigpond.com. And that's about all I have for you this week. No items to report for sale or dispose of. So if you would like to get some of your equipment in, second-hand equipment, onto the list, and you can do that by emailing me also, VK6XRayVictor at bigpond.com is the address. And until next week, 7-3.
Hi there, it's Clinton, VK6FCRC, back with you. And did you know that Newswest is now on YouTube? Type in youtube.com/@Newswest weekly podcast -Kilo Zulu 7 Yankee Charlie. Oh, and before I go, I'd like to thank those watching on YouTube or ATV, the readers, and you for listening. I'd also like to thank our team, the broadcasters, and those submitting content each week. Please stand by now for callbacks after the broadcast, or head over to the VK6.net website and fill out the forms so we know how many people are listening each week.